Hello, hello, Hayley Jepson. How are we?
I'm good, Maddie Cook. How are you?
I
Have you
love
got
to
a middle
full name
name?
you. It's Eileen. Do you have a
Oh,
middle
I'll give
name?
you a Maddie Eileen Cook next time. I
Madeline.
haven't got a middle name.
Oh, Madeline Eileen. Thank you.
Oh, yes,
Maybe
Madeline.
Miss Hunter name. I feel like I'm getting told off. Um, I've got an episode for you today, Hayley, and this one
Exciting.
is this one is close to my heart because I feel like I can give a decent whacker perspective on this from personal experience. Partnerships.
Ooh,
Yes.
interesting. It's like couples counselling.
Oh, yeah. It's like if one marriage wasn't enough, you've got another one at work.
Great.
So, very, very top level, I have been in a partnership and left a partnership. And I have then had people attempt to get into partnerships with me at various stages of my business. So, I think there's loads we can talk about on here. I think there's people who might be thinking about getting into one, people who are already in one, or people who might get approached kind of down the line. So the
People who are trying to
first,
get out of them.
yeah, people who are trying to get out of them. Yeah, very good point, actually, because that is hard. That is one of the hardest things. So, as our resident Dr. Melfi in the house, that's your new name after
Oh, my
after last week.
dream.
Your dream. We'll go full Sopranos. Let's go with the why. Why do you think people, first of all, get into partnerships?
Well, I think there's if I'm thinking about people setting up salons. That's how this I think about this in my brain. People are thinking
Yeah.
about setting up salons, and I think it's a few things, but I think it's things like confidence. People are not confident enough to do it on their own, and they feel like when they do it with somebody else, anyone who's got anything to say is going to say it about both of them, which feels easier. Like there's just a confidence thing. I think people think it'll be more fun to do this
Yeah.
with somebody else,
Yeah.
less lonely, less lonely in the decision making, and just more fun generally.
Yeah.
I think people haven't thought it through beyond. I'm going to open a salon with my mate. That'll be nice, won't
That
it?
was me.
That kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mine was like a financial necessity slash. Won't this be fun? And we can split the bills. This will be half the risk.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly
that was
that. And my
mine.
next thing is I think people think it will be less risky to do it with someone else in lots of ways. I think mentally they think it's less risky to do it with someone else. And that's just really around, I think it's like, what will people say? What will happen? We're in it together. It just feels less
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
lonely. Do you know what I mean? Around that sort of, it's like a psychological risk as well as, but I think
yeah,
opposite the financial risk. I think
yeah.
sometimes you've got to stump up some money at the front, and
Oh
people
God,
haven't got
yeah.
that money up front. And so you split that initial upfront money. And
Yeah.
I think essentially people are sometimes, I think this, people are often trying to get their needs met through relationships, not just in partnerships, just generally in life. We're trying to
Yeah.
get our needs met through relationships. And so I think people are doing that through partnerships. I think however you behave in your relationships elsewhere, you're probably going to behave like that in a business partnership as well. Eventually, we all show up as ourselves after the
Yeah.
polite beginning,
Yeah, that's true.
and so I think all of that.
Yeah.
I think whenever you talk about relationships, marriages, family ones, business ones, from my point of view, it's the same. It's the same sort of thing. And so people think it'll be easier together, but what I think about this is, partnerships can hold you back sometimes. Partnerships can actually make your life less stable
Yeah.
because people take risks. There's all sorts of things I think that can go wrong as well. So that's my
Yeah.
thoughts off the top of my head, Maddie, about that.
Love it. Yeah, makes sense. Like I think it's you just kind of reminded me, it's a bit like if you move in with someone, people go, it's very expensive to live now and to live by yourself. And people think, oh, I'm seeing this person. That'll make things much easier. We'll get to hang out all the time. We'll get to split our bills. And then, like you say, the mask slips and we see each other at our worst.
Yeah.
Exactly the same in a business partnership. One of you is doing more housework than the other. You build up
The
that kind of
division of
rage.
labour, my
Oh
favourite
Lord.
conversation. I think it might make
Yeah.
one thing easy short term,
Yeah.
but it can potentially make things harder long term.
Yeah.
That's basically what I think about all of that. But I bet you know something about the legals around this, Maddie. Like, I bet there's legals.
Yes, and I know this from very, very tough learned experience. So, if you do not, basically, a partnership is loosely defined. This is not the legal definition, but in a nutshell, if two or more people enter in something, enter into like a business with a view to making a profit, you are in a partnership, right? Whether you open a joint bank account or not, you are technically, legally, you're in a partnership. You also need to set up a partnership with HMRC. You need to do a partnership tax return. You each need to do that. And then someone needs to do a separate one for the partnership. Another lesson that I learned. So we each had to do, and I've had two. You've just reminded me I had another partnership after this. Everyone in the partnership has to add the partnership tax return onto theirs, and then there is a separate entity. A partnership is a separate legal entity, a bit like a limited company.
I've even lost you there because it's so boring.
It is super
like,
boring.
That's so much paperwork.
Honestly,
I don't mean you're boring. Like, that amount of paperwork makes most hairdressers go, I've switched off. Like, what I heard was, if it was me and you, I need a piece of paper, you need a piece, and we need a piece of paper, and then
we need
there's
a separate
one.
Yeah, and it's a pain in the arse. And if you do not have a partnership agreement, this absolutely blew my mind. You are bound legally by the Partnership Act of, wait for it, 1890. Not this century, not the last one, the one before that. So you imagine how I tried to read a bit of it. Oh, if you think tax is boring.
It's too much. This is admin hell for those ADHD.
It is.
Isn't it? I mean, I think that's what that is.
Yeah, it's total admin hell, and you feel really in over your head. So if you don't have a partnership agreement, you will automatically be bound by the Partnership Act of 1890. There's lots of stuff in there, but the thing that I think is like really
being
important,
married.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're bound by
this. If you don't have this agreement, so this agreement is a piece of paper. If you set up a salon with your mates and you don't have this agreement,
you're bound by this.
If the shit hits the fan, it's like you're married.
Yes. So there's wording in there, and it's, I can never say it, it's, you are jointly and severally liable, which in normal people terms means things are not 50-50. You are each responsible separately for like 100% if the shit hits the fan. So let's say
that's why it's like a marriage.
Yeah, let's say me and you opened a salon tomorrow, and then you nashed off to Mexico to live your best life in a few weeks, and we've got a 5-year lease.
Possible.
They don't go, Maddie, we're going to chase you for your half, we'll try and find Hayley. They go, we can't find Hayley, Maddie, you owe us this because you represent the partnership to us. For any commitments that you make.
Jointly and separately. Severally maybe means separately. Like,
it sounds like it,
and separately.
Yeah, so they don't care. They don't see it as a 50-50 partnership. In that sense, it's we will come for whoever has the money. So let's say one of you
whoever
goes,
we can find.
Yeah, whoever we can get the money out of first, we'll try that. And there was something else. Oh, the other thing is, it is 50-50 legally. So let's say me and you open a salon, I put in 100 grand, you put in 10. We have like a spoken, like, you might have like a gentleman's agreement, or like we'll do this is how it's going to work. You can then, if we separate, what happens if you don't have a partnership agreement, is no, that doesn't matter anymore. You just go half down the middle. So you can go half of the liabilities, but also half of the assets. So if that money is just still in the bank, you get half, I get half. After you've
That's so funny. So
it
is without the partnership agreement, it is so like a marriage. And so what I kind of hear here is the partnership agreement's a prenup.
Get your prenup.
It's like you
Yeah.
get your prenup. It's like
Yeah.
saying you get what you put in when you come out. Like, I know friends with prenups like that.
Yeah.
People bring whatever to the marriage and they make sure that they bring that back out.
Yeah.
And then there's what
Absolutely.
you make together. But essentially, if we had a salon, you put in 100 grand, I put in 10,
Yeah.
and then we fall out, I can easily have half of that
Half. Yeah. I
without
could
that
do
agreement.
90% of the
God, it's
work. I
so
could be
like
much
a
more
marriage, isn't it?
profitable. It's really, really like a marriage. And I think would you marry someone where
That's what it is.
you're making 100 grand, they're making 10, you own a house, they don't, they're coming to move in. Would you give all of that? I think you'd be mad to not have a prenup and say, we're not going into this equally, so we won't come out of this equally. We've got to really kind of protect
Yeah.
ourselves. So I made this mistake because I was like, oh, we're friends and we can just have conversations and we roughly know.
Enthusiastic.
Yeah. And in fact, we didn't even really have many conversations at the beginning. So at the end, it was very hard. It was very, very difficult because of all of the above things. Um,
Yeah.
and you have to I had to take legal advice. It was a very long drawn out process. It was one of the most challenging professional things that I've ever gone through, and if I could have anyone not go through that for the sake of just having a bit of paper, you can download them off the internet,
Yeah.
get a lawyer to look over it, whatever. um so what would be your advice then for someone who's considering it? Let's say you're thinking about this, maybe you and your mate are renting a space and you think, oh, we could open somewhere together. Or someone's approached you maybe who's got a salon and they think, oh, do you want to come on board? What would you advise them to do?
I mean, for me, it's all about managing expectations. Like, I think you should do this when you're going into a marriage, when you're going on holiday with someone, when you're going to start a podcast with someone. I think the sorts of conversations that you should have are, how do you think this is going to go? How do you see this looking? And it's the what if this, what if this, what if this? Like, have the conversations when you're friends about what might happen if you're not,
Mm-hmm.
or how to avoid getting there. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's really, for me, about managing expectations up front and not making presumptions
Yeah.
that it'll be all right. Do you know?
Yeah.
Like, and I really live like this with quite a lot of stuff that I'm doing. It's really funny. Like, literally when I go on holiday with my friends, I'll be like, what are you wanting from this holiday? And someone will be
Yeah.
like, I want to go raging. And someone else is like, oh, I was up for a chill. It's a good
Mm.
job we had a chat about that then, isn't it? And
Yeah.
so I've gotten really good at that sort of thing now,
Yeah.
because it just means that your relationships stay better. So for me, it's upfront, difficult conversations. This is how I see this going. Is this how you see it going? This is what I'm scared of.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm scared of. This is what I think would be brilliant. This is what I'd like this to go eventually. One day I'd like another one, another salon. One day I'm also thinking about having some kids in a couple of years. Like, just how is this going to look and what is going to happen? So for me, it's all like upfront conversations, really.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do
Same,
you
and,
think
and
about?
again, it's as soon as you were saying that, I was thinking it's so similar to a relationship where you'd say, do you want to have kids? What are your future goals? What are your aspirations? Like, do you want to move to another part of the country? What would happen if one of our parents got sick? Like, those are all really important conversations to have fairly
Yeah.
early on, like in a committed relationship. And like
People are
one,
not having them, though.
no, they're really not. And
People are
it's,
not having them in all sorts of relationships. I mean, as a therapist, I heard this a lot.
yeah,
But problems arise often because people didn't have these conversations up front in marriages
yeah.
and partnerships and whatever,
And it's so much
for
easier to just
sure.
get them out on the table when you're mates, and it's almost just like, because we do this when we collaborate. It's like, what could go horribly wrong, and what will we do if one of those things
Yeah.
happens? And like something, say if you're in a business partnership, it's like, what if one of you gets really sick? What if one of you does take a year off to have a kid? What if your partner becomes unwell? What if one of you die, and then their partner comes in because they are the next of kin? Do you want to be in business with your best mate's husband or wife or
Yeah.
whoever? Um,
Yeah.
or all of these things, like what happens if one of you is a bit older, when you want to retire, if you want to exit the business, what are your goals?
What if
Exactly as you
someone
say.
wants to give up? What if
Yeah.
someone wants to give up the salon and the other one doesn't?
exactly. All
You
of
know,
these like scenarios to go through. Yeah.
it sounds harder than a marriage, doesn't it? The
Yeah.
more I talk about it, I'm like, this seems harder.
It is. Let's tell you. And I think like
Mm,
if I had my time again, back to your earlier point, I would really reflect on the why. Like, can you work with someone else? Do you need to work with this person? Are you doing it, like you say, to meet a need, or because you think it's going to be financially viable? My advice to anyone now is, if you can manage it on your own, do it on your own. And you don't necessarily have to go into a partnership with a person to collaborate and work with another person. Um,
mm-hmm.
yeah, that would be my sort of thought.
Like we do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly like we do. I mean, I think this, I like playing with others. I
Yes.
do. However, I like to be in charge of myself, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
like that feeling of maybe being held back by somebody else or
Mm-hmm.
having to compromise too much in certain things. And so, what I think, how I like to roll now, particularly with this business now, is I like it being mine, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel alone in my business because I've got you and Emma and Viv.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't feel alone in my business, but I'm in charge of it. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think sometimes we don't need partnerships, we just need support. We don't
Yeah.
need to tie our financial carts together,
Yeah,
and all
definitely.
of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
We just need support from other people. And I think, I mean, this podcast is a good example, isn't it, of
Mm-hmm.
a, a, a partnership. We are in a partnership around this, but we're not in a partnership in a big scale in our businesses. We come together
Yeah.
to do things, don't we? We do.
We collaborate. Like
We collaborate.
we've got People Pleaser to Powerhouse, which is our one
Mm-hmm.
day in person thing, and we obviously make plans around that. We sell tickets for
Mm-hmm.
that. We deliver
That
it,
was our
and
first
that's
thing we did together,
yeah.
wasn't it?
And we had that exact same conversation. We were sat in a pub in York, and we were like, "Okay, what could go wrong?"
Oh yeah,
Do you remember? We were planning it all out, and
because I
you
was
of
thinking, I don't want to fall. I don't want this. I want this to be brilliant, and I don't want to fall out with Maddie.
yeah,
Like I want to.
yeah,
I want to have a conversation now that makes sure we never fall out
yeah,
over
and
this bit of business.
yeah.
And
This
we
is
did
going to
all right.
age.
So no,
This will age horribly, Haley, if we have a big fallout. Imagine people will be sharing us all over. But we have
I'll be on the
you come,
documentary.
yeah, the Netflix special. You obviously come in and do kind of program coaching and breakthrough, which is like a 6 monthly thing. So it has a start and an end, and we're super specific on expectations and what your role is and what it isn't and all of that. And then we have this, which
Yeah,
is like an ongoing, hopefully a long-term ongoing thing. um
yeah.
but again, we have the conversations of like what the expectations are, what
Always.
to
We
do
always have the
when.
we have an exit strategy conversation a lot, don't we?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like what if one of us can't do this anymore? We have it
yeah,
around breakthrough, we had it around this.
yeah,
People pleasers once a year, so not so much around that. But
yeah,
when anything's a big time commitment, we're always like, what if I want out?
yeah. And we're like
And
mindful of each other's sort of energy, and like if one of us is really stacked with work, the other one will take a little bit more on, and vice versa. But we have conversations a lot about this of like what our capacity is, what we can handle. Do we think that this, if X number of things is realistic, like how can we make it work for both of us?
yeah.
We're
And
constantly
we
in
have different skill
communication.
sets.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have different skill sets a bit as well. We have overlapping ones, don't we? But we also have slightly different skill sets,
yeah. We just make it
which
work.
is
Like,
good. And it is more
mm-hmm.
fun doing it together, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, that's it. This is not to sort of say thou shalt not work with anyone else, but like there's ways to do it in a way that feels very safe and respectful and fun
Yeah.
and not
Thou shalt get a
stressful.
prenup.
Yeah, thou shalt get freedom. Ah, lovely.
And so what do you really want people to take away from this conversation, Maddie? What's important for you that people know?
Yeah, so there's kind of two things. One is that if you are in a partnership already, you can add an agreement. And I think it's just like having that conversation and saying, look, we're both at a big risk. We didn't do this before. Let's give ourselves grace. We went into it really excited, but let's have a meeting where we can both set our expectations, talk about different scenarios, and like come to an agreement, write it up, maybe get a lawyer to look over it, and then that's it, because it's there to protect both
Oh,
of you.
that's nice.
So you can do that
Yeah,
if
so
you're
it's
in
not
the
too
partnership.
late.
Nope, absolutely
It's
not. No, no,
never
no.
too late. If someone's
Never
listening to
too
this
late.
thinking, oh no,
Yeah.
they can literally. And where would somebody go, Maddie, to find this partnership agreement piece of paper?
So you can
Is
you
it
can
on
just
GovNet?
download ones from, there's things like, I think it's called Rocket Lawyer. There's like online things where you can pay a few quid or a membership to get like a legally written one. I would always just pay to get something looked at by a solicitor to make sure that there are no gaps. I would do that with a lease, with anything where the risk is really high. I think it's just worth paying to have their eyes on it, because it's a very expensive oversight or mistake to make sort of down the line. Um, and I think as well, be mindful for people who are further down the line of people trying to get into your business when you are being visibly more successful, because I've had
Oh, yeah, we've
this
had
as
conversations
well.
about this,
Yeah. So
haven't we? This is something we've talked a lot about privately, isn't it? Because there's stuff
yeah, I
going, we
don't.
see it, there's stuff around, isn't there?
In my experience of this, I've never spoken about publicly. So, hot take, exclusive podcast. And funnily enough, it was just literally the same month as I'd got out of the business partnership. So I was really like vulnerable and fragile, and I had lots of like self doubt, and I was like not in a good place, sort of mentally or emotionally or anything. And someone who had found me in a not an industry person, who'd found me in a group who wanted to build a booking system, so wanted to consult with people who use booking systems, said, "Oh, can I have a chat?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely fine." I think we're on the same program or something, so I was like, "Yeah, I'll help out." And as soon as I mentioned Bossier Salon, everything changed. It was like eyes lit up. I think the words were, "Forget about the booking system. I want to talk to you about this." And it was like, it was the only way I can describe it is how I imagine it would feel going through a really messy divorce and then going on Tinder a week later and having someone like want to move in with you and get married, and like the really
Yeah.
intense. And I was like, whoa, this is a rebound. And
Yeah.
very long story short, they made a pitch to me to have half of Bossier Salon. This was in 2019. So it was a very, very small business then. Like there was no, it was very much like a little side hustle. Um, and the way it was positioned was, you will not grow without me. You have a certain set of skills, but I have skills that you don't have. Funny enough, it was like sales and marketing. I was like, yeah, I do.
That.
And it was like a bit of a neg, like, you will never reach your potential, and isn't that such a shame? And I'm so
Wow.
excited to work with you. And luckily, I pondered on it, and I just had this good feeling, and I was like, this is not a good idea. And I said that. They kind of kept pushing and kept pushing, and I eventually had to kind of cut all ties. And I am so, so glad that I did, because I don't think it would exist now. And I have seen a couple of quite high profile examples of this, one in the industry, one outside recently, both women, where they have had successful businesses. And both times it's been a guy who's approached them. Maybe it's an investment, maybe it's a partnership, and they have ultimately been pushed out of their businesses. In fact, I can think of another one in another industry. Um, and I want to share some sort of wise words from Lorraine, my accountant, who is like Yoda. I freaking love her. And
Let's see what Lorraine's got to say.
she basically will not work with partnerships. She said,
Oh.
and she's been accountant for decades. She was like, they end badly, partnership agreement or not. There is always something. She obviously gets brought in to divvy out the accounts and go through all of that. She has literally banned me from entering into any other partnerships, so I follow that rule. And she also says about investment, people trying to come in and get a chunk of your business. For me, she said, do not do it. She said, if you need to raise money for this company, you borrow it or you raise it yourself. You owe it to the bank. You do not let any other person have any decision making in this company, like externally. And I think for me, it was from a place of a lack of self-confidence. And she had to like remind me, you can do it. You can do the things that you need yourself, or you can pay to hire people to do these things. She was like, there are no gaps in your business that will be filled by either bringing in a partner, shareholders, investors, or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I just needed to be reminded of that. And I think whatever stage you're at, have the confidence that you've got this far. Like the fact that you're in a business now, especially if you go through the pandemic, you've done incredibly well to get here. So please don't let people think I can, crack you open and find that little weakness and exploit that, because people will do that with successful people, sadly. What are your thoughts? Final thoughts?
Oh, I mean, for me, I just think it's about communication. I think in any relationship, when you're entering into anything, like I say, literally from a partnership, a marriage, a holiday, renting a house together, it's all about communication up front and managing your expectations and talking about the what ifs. Having those difficult conversations early will be much easier than having those difficult conversations later. And so, yeah, managing expectations, I think, is exactly the thing. It's a big thing. Yeah.
Great advice for life as well, everywhere.
Exactly that. I just think so much of this, it's all partnerships, isn't it? It's all relationships in big and small ways. I think this stands up. Yeah. Good one, Maddie. Good topic. Let's hyper focus.
I feel like we need like a hyper focus. Pew 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 pew.
I know,
like
we
a
need to get
jingle.
some sound jingles. Yeah, we'll work on that. We'll
That'll
work
be
on that for the next season.
a few more series. Yeah.
Lily, can you get on that?
Thanks, Lily. Hyper focus. I'll tell you what, this is one for my OGs. The whiteboard is back out. It's been away for a while. And I've got my little pens, holds pens up to the thing. I've actually got millions. It's quite embarrassing how many I've got. And I've been mapping something out, a program, and I've got all my little multicolored stuff, my post-it notes. And actually, it's felt mint to be creating something. My little inner child is full of glee because she freaking loves colourful things, mind maps and stuff like that. And it really gets us into like a mint creative space, which I struggle with massively to do typing or just something, on the computer. So for me, I love it. I love writing things out in the colour and everything like that. So I'm fully committed back into the hype of the whiteboard, of all my jazzy pens, stationery.
What do you call you? I remember when I met you, you used to talk about whiteboard something. What was it called?
So
you had like an event.
Oh, there's two things, right? So there's Funnel Fun Day, which is like thrilling for me, and I actually have it's in my hallway because I can't throw it out, but it won't fit in my house. But I had it when I was in the office, and it's like a 6-foot whiteboard that flips round and it's on wheels. And I was like, Aiden, can it go in the dining room? No. So it's just kind of wedged into the hallway. So I've got the mini one. But the big one we would do Funnel Fun Day, and it's where you map out, like you map out a process basically, and you've got the visual of it, and you can go, I'm missing something here, that can be automated. I could put something in at this bit. So it's like a really good, I mean, other people would find this horrendous, but for me, I love Funnel Fun Day. And the little whiteboards.
Yeah, I've got a few whiteboards. Sorry, carry on. I'll tell you about mine in a minute.
And the little whiteboard got the name Maddie's Manifestation Station because it turns out that anything I wrote on it started to come true. So people were literally texting me going, Maddie, will you stick this on the whiteboard? I'm trying to get this many sales or this many, sign-ups or whatever. So there is a bit of, I do have a magical thing. That sounds very
I'm going to get on that in a minute. I'm going to send you a couple of things.
Yeah, tell us what you want on the manifestation station. I'll stick it on. Tell me about your whiteboards.
So I got into whiteboards after meeting you, really, I would say. But I use whiteboards in a different way. I use mine as like, well, I'm looking at them now. If you're on to YouTube, you can see me. Over here is things I don't want to forget that are really good ideas that I'm going to do. They live on this, because if I put them in a pad or in my Remarkable, they're gone. I need to keep seeing them. So these are like ideas I don't want to forget about, live over here. And then I have a L'Oreal whiteboard over here, which is jobs I've got coming up, so that they're all in one place, because I've got an ongoing thing with jobs coming from L'Oreal around Head Up. And so I write them all there. And so it's like an extension of my brain that I can see. That's how I
Totally
use
get
the
that.
whiteboard. But I
Yeah.
also bought a really small one recently for writing notes on for when I'm doing lives. So I
Have
can
you
have it next just to
seen?
write down bullet points.
Have you, yeah, I'm sure you'll get the ads for this because I think we'll get the same ads. But have you seen the desk thing that's like a desk tidy with your little pens and that inside, but it's made of whiteboard material so you can write stuff on?
Yes.
Oh, the
Yes.
ADHD dream.
I have seen this because there's an American coach that I follow and she's obsessed with office supplies. And
Mm.
she's been talking about that for about a year now. She's like
Again,
loving it.
if anyone's listening from Big Whiteboard Corp, send us some stuff, please. Thank you.
We will
Haley, what's
hyper focus all
your
about that.
yeah? What's your hyper focus?
What's mine? I was like, oh, I think I'm involved in yours now. Someone also told me about more on the whiteboards. I think it was called magic boards, and you can throw them up and they stick to anything.
Shut up.
And so you can, yeah, Google it. It comes on a roll. Someone from L'Oreal told me about
I'll
this.
write this down.
And it's like, yeah, it's called Magic Board. It comes on a roll. And she was saying to me,
Oh,
like, do you know when you go to salons and you educate and you write on the mirrors?
uh-huh.
Instead of doing that, you can just cut a piece off and it sticks to anything and you can write on it.
And then it just comes off and doesn't mess the wall
And
up.
then you just take the thing off. Yeah, I know.
My God,
I
you've
know.
blown my mind.
It's in my basket on Amazon.
Right,
Thinking about it.
I'm
I've
gonna look at that
sometimes
immediately.
thought I would just like, could I paint my office in whiteboard paint?
That would be my dream. Do you know when people are like,
Like, I bet you can.
oh yeah, totally. I've
You
seen
can
those
do
rules.
chalkboard, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about this. I need more that you can't see from the video, though. I need like all in front of me to be total whiteboard.
Do you know that? Do you know that meme? And it's Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and he's pointing at the wall. It's got all the little
Yeah.
red tags. Aidan's always like, "That's you," trying to just be like presenting what you've the madness from the whiteboard. Well, it all makes sense to me.
This is Funnel Fun Day. Yeah, I do have a hyper
Yeah.
focus.
Okay.
I am absolutely obsessed with Vinted. It's finally happened to me.
Yes.
I've been like dipping my toe in Vinted. Like you talk about it a lot. One of my good friends talks about it a lot. She's always got a crazy vintage haul going on. And so I've started selling on Vinted now as well because I've been
Ooh.
buying, because obviously I had my colours done like you and we're the same, even though we look different. We're both autumns.
Yeah.
We might merge into each other though slowly over the next couple of years. We'll see how that pans out. But so yeah, so I've been buying bits and pieces in my new colours because I was a bit confused with the whole situation. I was like, "What do you mean rusty? It's not for me. I like pink." So I've been buying a lot, but the other day I was like, right, I took everything out of my wardrobe that's not in my colours, and I've started listing. And it's so exciting when people buy things, isn't it?
How
Do you sell things on Vinted?
No, I'm too lazy. So I
Lazy.
do, well, my sort of piles of things, I've got one upstairs actually. I have a friend, Sarah, who has set up a really cool business in Newcastle called the People's Exchange. And she does a bit like the American model of like thrift store stuff. So you can drop stuff in, she buys it, and you can either get cash or you can get credit. Obviously, I get credit because I want to get more stuff. And then you can go and look at other people's stuff, but it's like really well curated. The stuff's just nice. It's not like shitty stuff. And now because she knows I'm in autumn, she's like, I've got some stuff
Oh,
for
she's
you that
saving
you'll,
things.
yeah, it's very
Your
good.
size,
So
your colours.
yeah, so for me that's much easier. It means I can then get new stuff. I feel part of this little like local circular economy, and I don't have to go to the post office.
Yes.
But
Oh, I've
Aidan,
got to do the post office today.
yeah, Aidan does a lot of eBaying, and it's like some stuff will go for loads, some will be terrible, but I think it's like an averages thing. You just have to be like, whatever.
Yeah, it feels risky now, eBay. Because I was looking
Yeah.
at it the other day, because my friend said, when you've got stuff that's more expensive, it's better to sell it on eBay, but you've still got to put it at 99p, and you can only put
Yeah.
a reserve if it's 50 quid, whereas
Mm,
vintage, anyway, it's such a big job to list everything I've got. So I just basically every now and again I just chuck a couple more things on, but they're selling.
that's
And
good.
so I'm excited that I will have this lump of money that I can maybe buy a couple of really nice pieces.
Transitional,
What
what
that
did I
means
say?
is I'm going to hit
Transitional.
Gucci.
Yeah,
No, it means
elevated
I'm gonna hit
transitional knitwear.
I'm going to hit Gucci, Maddie, hopefully, when I sell all my stuff.
Well, why the hell not? I think we were both talking about we want a Gucci scarf, don't we? Because you have one, but it's not your right colours.
I've got one. Honestly, I treated myself when I did a big job. I bought this Gucci scarf, and then when I realised it wasn't my colours, I was heartbroken. But I am
So
going to sell
devastating.
it.
Yeah,
And then my plan is, when I sell some other stuff as well, to go and buy a really nice Gucci scarf in the right colours.
I think that sounds like a good idea, and I might join you.
That's my plan.
Or some nice pajamas. I love a posh pajama as well. So I just
Ooh.
think it's luxurious getting into
Gucci
bed.
pyjamas, Maddie. That is elevate.
No, I didn't go Gucci. You said that, but a nice, really. I just love nice fabric, like soft fabrics. I also think nice beddings are
Yes.
very, very good. Nice bedding was the first thing I bought myself when I was like, okay, I've got out of debt. I was like, I'm going to buy some nice bedding because it's just where you spend
Nice.
half of your day.
A lot of time. A lot of
Exactly.
time.
Um,
Good.
Buzzing.
Good.
I mean, how funny that we've got so many bloody hyper focuses. I wish we'd written them all down to put them into like a big end of the year list.
We could have like Oprah's favourite things. It's Hayley and
Yeah.
Maddie's favourite things.
Yeah. We need to put this together.
All
And
over
some
it.
of them I'll be like, what was this that we're talking about? Oh yeah.
What was that madness?
I forget them like a week on week. Well, this is wonderful. Thank you for your input on this and for everyone
Nice to
listening.
talk to you as always.
Yeah, and if anyone's got anything to chip into this, their experience, obviously get us on the DMs, get us on Instagram, and if anyone has any requests, send them our way as well.
Send them our way.
I'll see you
next week.
Yeah.
See you next week.
See you in a bit.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. And don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments.
Please support those who support us and check out Timely, who we recommend is our favourite booking system for you. New customers can get 50% off their first 3 months with the code COFFEE50.